Hello, hello, hello. This is Dr. Troy.
And I'm Ben-Jamin Toy.
We're broadcasting from the Cohesion Culture headquarters in beautiful Charleston, South Carolina, where even when it rains, the sun still shines.
You're going to hear real-time stories from leaders confessing their most crucial or recent experiences in business.
Learn what their cost them, steps they took to fix it, and how they planned
to not do that one again. All right. Well, welcome, Cohesive Leaders. We've got a great guest today, Dr. Troy and myself in the studio, joined by John Lowe. Welcome to the Cohesive Leader Conversations podcast.
Thank you. Looking forward to talking to you guys. I've enjoyed the limited interactions, so thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
And we are grateful and looking forward to what this conversation can bring. We'll get to some of the roles and things you've had later on. But first, we want to know something about you that's not on your resume or LinkedIn bio. Tell us something that we wouldn't find with a regular Google search.
I joked that my wife had one commitment she wanted me to make before we got married, and that was that I needed to commit that I would never run for office. She knew I had been bitten by the political bug early, and she needed to hear that. She did not want that life. And after we'd been married for many years, she came to me and she said, I have to admit, I'm now more worried that you're going to announce you really just want to coach 7th grade boys basketball. And we have 3 boys. I loved coaching them. It was always volunteer, and I wasn't good enough to be an actual coach, but it was so much fun that she began to worry that I was going to announce that was my next thing. So that's not on my resume.
I don't know there's much political going into, into sports.
Well, you got to appease the parents and all that kind of stuff. My kids, the bench warmers and the you got to bide your time between both of them. So it's a challenge. I don't know if the 7th graders, but once you get into that high school world and the travel ball, it gets kind of crazy. So
yeah. Well, what did you?
And I didn't think I wouldn't have been a good enough coach for guys once they got taller than me. So that was 7th grade would have been my peak.
I love it. So what is it that you enjoy about coaching the sports?
Oh, it's the same thing as in business, right? Getting people to work together and have a common cause and figure out what everybody's good at. And not everybody needs to shoot. Not everybody needs to be the top rebounder. And that's true in business. And I don't know. I loved teaching kids sort of how to work together, the plays, and then when they worked in games, it felt like magic. So I found it very rewarding and fun.
That's great. Awesome. So one of the things we want to now find out is about who you are as an individual. Or who you versus who you are, your role. So we're going to separate those two conversations. So this is now for you. So individually, like what are some characteristics or words that people would use to describe you that doesn't include a role? And kind of think of it as if you walked out of the room, what would you want people to say about you? Like John is blank, and then fill in those descriptive words. What would they be?
Well, that's a tough one. I think that I think people would tell you that I care, and I tend to wear that caring on my sleeve and in my facial expressions, which isn't a strength, but it comes across what I'm thinking in the moment. I don't have a poker face. I'm revealing that. And I'm a big proponent of the best ideas come from deep in the organization, and doesn't matter where the good ideas come from. We gotta surface them and then get behind them. And I'm sort of as against politics and that sort of thing within the company. That I sort of work to get beyond people's biases for helping their own section of the business or whatever it is that they want, and making sure that we're doing what's in the best interest of the company as a whole. I think people would say that, or at least that's what I hope they would say.
Okay, good. So they'd say that you're a fair leader. You're a leader that cares about them, wants to be involved with them, and that you're the seeker of ideas, whether they are yours or generating from someone else. Would those three words or phrases sort of describe you?
Yes, I appreciate that. And it's interesting, as you put it so simply, I was thinking, but that's like that should be sort of base for anybody in leadership, and it often is. And so I was trying to get beyond sort of the being fair and that sort of thing. But I appreciate your point, and I think that that's how I hope people think of me.
Yeah, it's really great. And so some of this is also an exploration that really says that, we can describe ourselves in the most simplest of terms. We don't have to overcomplicate it. We don't have to overly justify it with the words that we say. It's like, what would it be? I want people to say for me that I am approachable, believable, and compassionate. Those are the words I want them to use when I'm not in the room or when I am in the room. So
Very good. I like it.
Passionate, kind, and available.
Okay, good.
So
yeah, so we got that. All right, so now we need to turn to the roles. So now we've now figured out the characteristics, the attributes of you as an individual, as a leader, as someone who shows up. So what are some of the roles that you have? And you can go back to, some of your beginning into business, or we already know that you're a father of 3 and a husband. So we know those titles because you've kind of expressed that a little bit in the beginning. So what are some other roles that you play?
Well, I was probably best known for being CEO of Jeni's Ice Creams. I was in that role for 14 years. Loved it. We had an amazing team. We did big things together. I'm on the board and stepped out of that role a couple of years ago. Prior to that, I was with General Electric Company. So I went from the Fortune 3 to Jeni's, which was then the Fortune 500,000. 4 scoop shops and big dreams and big plans. At GE, I was a general counsel for one of the business units within the big parent organization, and it was during the first global financial crisis, and so I got to do things that were outside of just being a general counsel that I found to be wildly fun, but also very taxing, and took a toll on me getting to be a husband and a father that I wanted to be. And part of the leap to Jeni's was a belief that I would get to be the husband and dad that I wanted to be. Prior to GE, I practiced law for 8 years and doing a wide range of different things. I like to joke that I'm 0-1 in jury trials. That's not a joke, that's real. I did some labor and employment work, and then I got to do some mergers and acquisition work and general corporate stuff. Prior to that, while I was in college, I was a speechwriter, and that was the thing that I loved the most, but I was very worried about doing that and running campaigns into the ground and not having a job. And I very much valued the security of a regular paycheck. And so I went to law school thinking that if you got a law degree, you could always pay your mortgage.
Well, what's interesting, you mentioned GE, and believe it or not, when you talked about the items that you said should it be like standard, baseline items, it really immediately called to mind what Jack Welch said in the book Winning, that he wrote with his wife Susie. He said integrity is the ticket to the game. So it's like a certain foundation. And one of the things that Ben and I talk about, we work with emerging leaders or organizations. We go, regardless of what your core values are, implicitly inside the organization, regardless of whether you put these out in writing or not, it's what we call our hat trick. It's honesty, accountability, and teamwork. They're always present. So these become like foundational. But again, giving life to you individually, despite what might be the foundation, is what's important in leadership. And so we're really excited about all the stuff he's going to share with us today.
Well, we're going to get to that question, but what was it like to go from general counsel to being CEO? Like, what were the skills that translated? What did you have to develop? I mean, I know this is off topic, but that seems like a very different trajectory for a career sometimes.
Well, it is our
Yeah.
podcast, so it is
Yeah,
our topic.
yeah.
Okay, so
That's right. I had to learn a lot. I was coming from an organization where I dealt almost exclusively with engineers and accountants. And I was joining an organization, very small, but full of creatives. And the creatives were world-class. Jeni and a small team around her, and a very small sort of operational team. And I came from a cutthroat, you got ahead by stabbing the other person in the meeting and having a better idea and being forceful, to an organization that didn't operate like that, thankfully. And I found myself bringing too much of GE cutthroat to a wonderful organization that didn't need that. And I at one point early on said something very blunt in a meeting. We had a design in front of us of a new style of pint, and I said that had been worked on by people in the team and people outside the team, and a lot of hours had gone in. And I said, if I was Nestle trying to knock off Jeni's, that's the design I would have. And as soon as it left my mouth, I thought I could have said that different, right? That was too harsh. That was too pointed. And Jeni, to her credit, said, "Nope, he's right. Like we got to go in a different direction." She sort of pushed it off, and she handled it well. But I still knew that I had brought too much of that sort of GE mentality to that meeting. So there were lots of things that I had to learn, and then generally just dealing with creatives. With engineers and accountants, you can huddle up, have a meeting, make a decision, and know that when you come back 2 weeks later, they've been off in the direction that you decided. And sometimes the creative process leads to rethinking what you thought was decided. And I would show up, a week or two later for a meeting, and there'd be a discussion about what I thought we had all aligned on and decided to move forward. And they had, continued to chew on it or gotten more information or whatever. And it took me a long time to sort of to understand, like, their brains are working slightly different than the accountants and the engineers, and we need it, and thank goodness they do. But it's more difficult to sort of manage in that environment.
what you really said was so impactful, because you were speaking life to emotional intelligence. You were talking about your own self-awareness that you had in that moment, in that situation, taking ownership for it. And although you may not have in this example showed how you would have corrected, since it was already being self-corrected through Jeni's leadership and and being able to do it, but the fact that you can recognize that and be aware of it, that you can put you can really put your fingers right on that and say, this is not how I need to be here in this environment to be able to do it. And then the other thing that you did, which was really just like so freaking awesome, is you demonstrated to individuals who are listening, these emerging leaders who are listening, to go, sometimes the people at the top aren't the people I should be modeling my behavior after.
Right.
You need to have a filter that you yourself apply to a situation, that just because these individuals might look and seem successful, you have to think about the value system that goes into being an effective leader. You can be a high-powered, I'm going to get whatever I want leader if you want to be that. But effective leadership comes when we balance in things like being teachable, having humility, seeking truth, being authentic. Those are the characteristics that really build the type of leaders who will find themselves to be successful on a long journey. And kudos to you for finding that yourself.
Well, I appreciate that. I deserve kudos if I had caught it right before it came out of my mouth, not right after, but thank you.
Yeah, no, you got it. But I doubt seriously it's coming out of your mouth again.
Right.
Okay, good. So still works.
You've learned, right?
Yeah, it still works.
All right. So the next thing is, we want to hear a different that you're prepared to share, that that was a personal thing that you learned, and that was a mistake or mishap that you're prepared to share and with our audience.
Too many to pick just one. one that comes to mind is we had grown fast. We had a small production kitchen that was like 1,200 square feet, and it was working. We were opening new stores. They were performing well. We were getting on the shelves of specialty retailers by calling them and shipping them ice cream directly. We didn't have distributors. We were too small. And all of that was working well. So much so that I gave the salesperson a bell and a map. And, when he landed a new account, he was supposed to put a pin in the map and ring the bell. And the problem with that was every time he rang the bell, the guy who was in charge of the kitchen, Charlie Bauer, his stomach tightened up and he would think, I can't make more ice cream. How are we going to do this? And so I went to the salesperson, I took the bell away and I said, you keep selling, don't ring, don't tell anybody, I'll deal with Charlie, all right? I can tell that joke because Charlie and I are still close and great friends, but it was stressful. We were trying to grow. So we got our hands on a new production kitchen. And that changed everything. We had now much more floor space to make ice cream. We had much more freezer space, and things were good. The problem, and so many manufacturing and food companies go through this as they scale, as we changed recipes and had bigger batches and had more people, whatnot, we got out of whack with our cost accounting. And when we used to base our pricing off of cost accounting from the 1,200 square foot kitchen, and then we didn't do it right as we got a new ERP system and scaled quickly. And so we took in a private equity investment. Things were going great. And I woke up one day and we couldn't make sense of the numbers. And our CFO and I were looking at each other saying I don't think this is right. The system is telling us, but it doesn't feel right. And I called the private equity fund that had invested in us. And one of their selling points was that they were great operators and that they had expertise beyond just being investors, and that they could really help us when we needed it. And I reminded them of their sales pitch and I said, we need the help. And they, to their credit, got on a plane the next day, and they spent hours locked in rooms with us trying to map out our system, where we were losing money that we didn't realize, because our cash wasn't matching up with what our system was telling us we were making. And we figured out that as we were storing ice cream around the country, we were losing nickels and dimes as it was moved in and out and picked and packed and whatnot. And it was a real growth moment for me because we thought we had a system and thought we were doing well, and then woke up to the fact that it was a real scary moment, and we weren't there. The cash wasn't coming in like we thought it would be. And we were fortunate, lucky, to have experts that we could call on immediately and help us get it right, and to sort of get back to where we needed to be. Took a while, required more experts, et cetera, but allowed us to sort of keep going and protect the company.
And what did that do for you personally? That was a for the company, which is a great way that you laid that out in these last few minutes. So we really understood the situation. But what was the for you personally in that situation?
Well, I was a CEO. The buck stops with me, and we had told our investors certain things were going to come true, and then they weren't coming true. And there's, that is a bad spot to be in. That is awkward and feels horrible. And yet I knew the right thing to do was to call them immediately and seek their help in getting us out of the situation. That the mistakes come when people try to hide screw ups, when they try to fudge around what could be going on, et cetera. And I knew we had a relationship with them where being transparent is always the right way to go, or almost always, but was clearly in this situation gonna be the right move. And we could work our way through it. So it was sleepless nights. It was certainly a level of stress where when things are going along great and then you get a surprise, it causes, great stress in the system. But I think we knew we had something that we could fix. We just had to get the right brains in to help us through it.
And that's really great that when you talked about that and you said, okay, so I've got a situation here. I know I have great experience and expertise. We already know that based on the background that you provided, but there was something about you that said, I can't do this alone and I needed help. Can you walk us through a little bit of the thought process? Like, did you attempt to try to do it on your own initially, and then it was later I bring in, or did somebody suggest to you to bring in other people? How did that happen?
Well, I was never alone. We always had a tremendous team at Jeni's, and excuse me, we had a CFO and a finance team and an ops team, and they were good people working hard. And so I was never alone. At that stage, I was one of the very few who were sort of at a level that could see this isn't adding up. And it wasn't rocket science, right? The dollars were not flowing into the bank account the way the accounting system would suggest they should have been. And so trying to peel back what was going on in the ERP system and why our cost accounting could be off was where we knew we didn't have the expertise in-house to do that. And so, I don't mean to suggest that sort of, that I was a lone wolf solving the problems at all. I wasn't. We were fortunate to have gotten big enough to have great people around.
And that's great, because the point I wanted to make was the fact that you weren't the lone wolf. You could have very easily been the lone wolf. There are CEOs or individuals in charge of projects or pieces of work, and they become the lone wolf. They believe that it's a sign of weakness to ask for help or to ask questions, where I say the sign of weakness is thinking that you know what you're doing and then you screw it up and not ask for help. So I think, it's really, that's the point I wanted to drive home. And you did a great job by saying, look, I don't know everything. I have enough oversight to what this is to recognize there is a problem, but I can't solve it. And the people around you couldn't solve it. And so then you said, look, I have to go somewhere else to get the answer. And I love the fact you didn't cover it up, that you did that.
Two questions. One, speaking of not knowing everything, what does ERP stand for?
Enterprise.
That's your risk?
Is that your risk? No. Enterprise resource platform.
Okay.
Enterprise. I think
it's the ops side of CRM, probably.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. And the CRM is often a part of the ERP.
Gotcha.
Oh, and I'm embarrassed.
That is CRM. Customer relationship management.
I knew that.
Yep. All these TLAs everywhere, 3-letter acronyms. What was the timing between you starting to realize a problem and by the time, if you can recall, when you brought in the private equity folks, how long did you allow this awareness to solution allow to exist?
Very, very short. I mean, possibly the same day.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it was a big enough deal that it wasn't that they were off by $1. I don't recall, but if it wasn't the same day, it was, spend a day trying to figure out if we've screwed something up, and that's easily findable. And if not, let's get on the phone. So yeah, it was quick. We knew we had an issue and we needed to work through it.
And again, you may not have the details on this one, but how long then after that new facility, when it was bigger, before you realized this was the problem? Like, did it happen within the first month, or was it a year or so before all those nickels and dimes started actually being visible?
That was several months, because we thought things were reasonably smooth, and it it was a few months in when we couldn't make sense of what we were seeing.
Okay. And what would you say this particular would have cost you personally as a leader had you have not had an opportunity to solve it?
Well, I mean, I think the investors would have been right to question my leadership and whether they had the right person in the seat. I think the team, would have rightfully wondered the same thing. And certainly the banks who were lending us money would, look at us differently if we had financial issues and didn't find our way out of them. So, probably would have cost me mightily if we hadn't dove in and fixed it.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing that would cost you reputation and financially if they ousted you, but also reputation wise, you weren't the guy and the beliefs that they had. Is that correct?
Yeah, for sure.
And the good news is you asking for help didn't cause the end of your career. It may have been something that actually extended it.
What I didn't fully appreciate at the time, and I now see from my new seat, like investors, like they know this sort of thing's coming, right? Like that is not a atypical problem when you are younger than I am now and in your first CEO role. That can feel like a wallop and oh my God, how did we screw this up? As an investor in other companies that look and feel like Jeni's and other CPG companies, like I'm not shocked if I get that phone call today and the ERP system's not quite right or the cash isn't quite matching up with the accounting. Like that happens. And I was fortunate that we had picked a private equity fund that had operators and understood that and understood how to dive in and help fix it. And it's one of the reasons I started a private equity fund was like, I kind of love that side of the business and we get to dive in and help behind the scenes with the companies we invest in now. And that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, super. So John, you've given us a lot of really great insight today, talking about the As a matter of fact, we got a double today. So we got the one from the very beginning that he spoke about, and then about the one involving the organization. If folks who are listening want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
So our private equity fund is called Amuck Consumer. We named it Amuck because I had to tell people what I was doing after Jeni's, and the truth was I was taking a little bit of time off as I had a kid who was a senior in sports, and I didn't want to be traveling and miss his senior year. And so I had to tell people that I was running Amuck. I started a consulting firm called Amuck so that I could say that. And then when it began time to start the fund, I went through a naming process of align and accelerate and all of the things. And they all felt a little corporate and not quite exactly like me and us. And so we just stuck with that. We believe in taking the opportunity seriously, but not taking ourselves too seriously. And that seemed to capture some of that. So john@amuckconsumer.com.
I got it. That's great. And for those who are looking for him on LinkedIn, it would be John Lowe, Lowe, John, just like you think, John.
I do want to actually see if we can translate this of the visibility, the issue. What is a way that you approached it that an emerging leader can approach a situation? Like when they're in a job and maybe they're managing a team, what takeaway can they get from, they're not running a multi-million-dollar company, they've got all these operations, but they're running a small team. What advice would you give for somebody like that when they realize that their budget's off by 10,000 or something?
In most situations, your boss has been there before. They know things aren't perfect. In fact, most of us have jobs to deal with the problems as much as be tremendous big leaders with big visions. And so be transparent. It is okay to say, I don't know. And it is okay to raise the red flag. In fact, sometimes that's your only job, even if you're in a big job and, and have a big title. And so, you get paid to do that. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it, but you got to be transparent with the person above you and let them know when you don't know something. They don't expect you to know everything.
Yeah, it's really great.
That's a good clip right there.
Right. So I know you were preparing for the podcast today, and you probably thought through and anticipated, being the type of leader you are, the questions that we would ask. What was the question that you thought we would ask that we didn't?
Well, I wasn't prepared for ERP. How's that? Enterprise resource platform. We're close. The question I thought you would ask. I co-founded Conscious Capitalism Columbus, and I'm a big proponent of conscious leadership and believed in the movement and whatnot. And at the same time, I struggle with sort of where the push and pull between conscious leadership and capitalism, and I think reasonable minds can differ on sort of where that push and pull comes from, and what should win and in what situation. And so I admire what you guys are doing. I like the way you are. You've titled your group, and you're talking to conscious young leaders, and so I think you all are on the right path. And I encourage everybody to, like, capitalism is the best system. It's so much better than any other system, and yet it's got real problems. And unchecked and without regulation can be terrible for society. And so I think our system could use some more people talking about conscious leadership and the things like you are doing.
So you would have liked a question around conscious leadership?
I was telling you that what I was thinking might come. How's that?
Okay, well, that's great. So Ben, what should we do?
Well, let's give a little bit more. You went down the route a little bit. I'd love to hear a little bit more of your thoughts on that topic.
I don't know that I'm prepared. I don't know that I've got anything great. I told you. I think I told you what was on my mind.
That's good. That's good.
Okay, well, that's good. All right, well, wait a minute. Here we go, everybody. Uh-oh. We just had an uh-oh. So, okay, it's all great. But John, we really do appreciate you being with us, and thank you so much for your contribution today to our program. Thank you for your contributions to the folks who are listening, and of course the folks who will be watching and listening on YouTube for that. So we're going to close out this podcast, like we do all of our Cohesion Culture programs, with this simple mantra: you don't have to know everything,
you just need to be teachable.